La Lanterna, a spotlight in Italian football, is a podcast that dives into the beautiful game seen from the eyes of two fans from the oldest team in Italy's point of view. My name is Fabrizio Cardone, Canadian and Genovese, together with my friend Matt Killen, an American-born and Genoa fan. Every week, we'll tell you all you need to know about the only team you need to know about, Genoa CFC. Plus, we'll have guests and provide updates from around the magical world of Italian football. Benvenuti everyone to La Lanterna episode number 28. We're almost to the 3-0, Matt.
Yeah, I know. It's almost a full season of La Lanterna, which is kind of amazing to think about for a second. But
wait, what's the turnaround? We say Giro di Boa. What's our first season? When is it going to end? Actually, I was asking myself, so I'm sure someone is going to be asking that.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends how many episodes we record this week. It probably will end before the end of the new year, right?
You think so? I was gonna do up to you. I mean, we can also ask around, but I was gonna do season 1, even though we started with the end of last Serie A season, is the end of Campionato.
Oh,
or you want to go calendar?
No, I agree. I totally agree. That's how we should do it. You just made me think of something else for a second. It was kind of like if you were to take the episodes we've recorded since our last game and have a full record thus far. I kind of don't want to see that because you're including also the Serie A stumbles that we lived through. But
we're going back. Don't worry about it.
I know.
So anyways, we're all here, Fabrizio and my best buddy, Matt. And welcome everybody back to our La Lanterna podcast. We're at episode, as I said, number 28. And we've just went through match day 15.
Also known as hell.
Hell.
What the fuck happened?
Well, yeah, well, we can also understand what happened actually. Okay, let's start from the beginning. A lot of fans are talking about, oh, it's so fun to hear the Genoani all complain and so on. Well, I would like to see first of all them in our situation, but you know, there's something that is happening at the bigger line. There's definitely a battleship, I think, in-house, Matt.
Yeah.
So there's like your German side versus the Italian side. I'd like to say that way. So you have our new ownership, which is 777 Partners, which has created this 777 Sports, which is led by, it's all funny though, if you think about the pun on words, but it's all led by Spores. It's not sports, but Spores. So he's the general manager of the bigger picture. And you hear, this is a different topic altogether, but you know, you hear all the news, all the media, all the fans saying that they want this Spores out. Spores is not going anywhere unless he screws up at a larger scale. We have 7 teams now, 6 teams. Like let's quickly count them. So we have the star from Paris. We have Leipzig,
Red Star. Yep.
Red Star, Leipzig. We have the Australian team. I can't remember. Forgive us, David.
Melbourne Victory, I think, right?
Thank you. Melbourne Victory. Then we have obviously Genoa. Then we have obviously Vasco da Gama in Brazil.
Yep.
And now also Hertha Berlin. Well, it's not official, but I think they're it's sort of like on the last stage.
Is that really a thing? That's an amazing combination to add to the group.
So that would be number 6. So what I'm trying to say with this is, when I hear the fans, when I hear the news, the journalists, the local, and talking about Genoa, and they talk about, oh, now Spurs is the next one out the door, it's not going to happen. Like Blessin is at Genoa level. Spurs is at 777 Sports level. That's not going to happen. They're not going to go and say, hey, you general manager, because you screwed up or because we stink here in Genoa, you're out the door. It's not going to work.
I mean, I completely understand why fans feel that way. I've got like a lot of, you've heard me. I mean, anyone who's been listening to this podcast has heard me complain about the players for like a while. I think there's a lot of blame that you can place on Spurs' recruitment policies and what he's done so far. And it kind of makes you feel a little bit concerned. Obviously, he got promoted over the summer. As you mentioned, he's in this elevated position. He's sort of looking over the player or sporting development work across all of 777's properties. Don't you always want to say like a fourth seven when you say?
I know,
Like,
seven,
like
seven,
it should be like
seven.
2 or 4. It shouldn't be 3.
Well, 3 is a perfect number.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know, whatever. But okay, so he was promoted. You in concept don't remove a person from that type of position in that period of time. I guess I'll just go out and say this thing. So obviously, like anyone who's listening to this thing, that we lost the match at home to Cittadella, which kind of an unforgivable result. I don't think the players really had a great accounting of it. I really don't believe we deserved even a single point from the match. I obviously I think we have more talent than losing by a goal to Cittadella at home or away. But all of that stuff aside, a lot of shit happened since then. There were already very, very loud calls for Blessin to be removed from his position. That happened officially.
Oh, okay.
Do
Hold that thought right there before you go on.
Okay.
So Jake from our Cittadella, Città Calcio USA cover yours right now. All kudos to them for having these 3 points, but I think it's more of a demerit of Genoa that we lost the 3 points, or that Cittadella got the 3 points, rather than the merit of Cittadella. Nothing to take away from them because they won it. So I'm not complaining or pointing the fact that they just was a bad team. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's something obviously to the point of arriving for the nth time now that Blessin was called to be, sacked and whatnot.
Yeah.
I obviously there was some, as we say in Genovese, remescio, which is like some mixing up or something behind the scenes. Like you imagine a pot where you're mixing all that water, it's turning and turning. So obviously there was something happen behind the scenes. So going back to what I was saying before, I see that there's, in my opinion, because I don't know enough, all these journalists are talking as if they know everything, but I'm putting pieces together and I come up with my mind with respects to ideas or hypotheses and whatnot. But I see like a Italian side versus a German side. So I think that sounds like Zangrillo is the one that put in the rumors about Gasperini during the summer and start to stir the pot. That's what the remescio is, type of thing. And having this Gasperini rumor, which was more of a rumor rather than a reality, and it started to, make people a little bit more, this is the reason why we went to Serie B, all this stuff and so on. Anyways, to the point of Blessin, I don't have anything against the guy. Obviously, there is something that was missing or not enough for what we needed. Mostly to your point of the bad management of, or putting up that the summer market. All right, and some people could also talk about the January market before that, it was incomplete, and we all were led to believe that it was like this great, and everybody still believes that on the paper we're still probably the most qualitative and whatnot. Something happened, whether it was a revolution inside, whether not, or a half revolution, because obviously there were players that are still on the side for Spurs, and others, I had a feeling, that were not totally adopting his methodology and or his presence. What do you think?
I think it's possible that that's the case. I kind of I never really gave as much credence to kind of the squad turning on him. And I know like we've had a couple of conversations too about like, so the last several podcasts, really, we've had a string of bad results now. It's kind of like, well, but the players seem to say the right things after the match and they seem to all back him. And a lot of the guys are still seemingly putting in effort and X, Y, and Z. I don't know. I could see people like falling off and on all those things happening. I'm not totally sure that it was, there's sabotage happening in the dressing room and players are not really feeling it anymore and they want him out.
Partial.
It maybe it could have, you think it was a couple of players?
I think so. Maybe a couple, maybe one, maybe five. I'm sure, I have a feeling that because of also the bad showings means that some, okay, find the pressure of the moment, of the delicate moment, so on. I still think that there were some in the locker room that were not too, didn't want him. Whether because it was management that Italian side versus the German side, I don't know. It's a feeling I have.
Yeah. So we've not directly said it, but I think most of our listeners already know it. Blessin obviously was sacked, I think, yesterday. That we're recording this pod on the 6th in North America, so it would have happened the day before. We're on a string of bad results, no wins in our last 5.
Actually, no, it happened this morning.
Did it happen this morning?
They had conversations last night, but it actually happened Italian morning, so it was our night.
You're right. Yeah.
So right. Tuesday morning, no training was to be made. So in theory, no player were to show up. Some did show up in order to say goodbye to him. So I'm guessing that they knew, but the official announcement came this morning. And he said his last goodbyes to the few players that were there. And that also increases my thinking of there are some players that are with him and some players that weren't with him.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I think, I'm sure it wasn't total shock that no one should be surprised by this decision.
No, not at all.
Since we drew against Brescia, it's been a string of 4 consecutive matches where we've just not looked, I don't want to say we've not looked competitive, but like we've really not looked like a side that has the right combination to really compete. And I think that the main concern is like if we continue this bad run of form, how far away do we drift off of the automatic promotion places? I think that's the biggest thing. So obviously this thing happens. I mean, I feel similarly to going back to what you were saying earlier about Blessin. Like, I don't know if there's really any actual vitriol against the man himself from anyone, any Genoano. But when you think about his time, it's kind of a disappointing thing. I think it's sort of sad to see him get sacked like this, because for me, this represents, and it actually goes back to what you were talking about earlier, which I kind of wanted to talk about more later, especially when we talk about the new kind of changes in Blessin's replacement. But there is this kind of idea with 777, right? Like they're coming in, they're obviously influenced by the RB Leipzig model, and the way that those team clusters are there, whether you like that or not, whether you consider that to be modern football or not, and maybe that's competitive or maybe it's not, or however you think. There's very much a view of that being how they wanted this operation to work. Blessin was obviously from that model. Spores was obviously from that model. There was kind of an idea to adopt this more, I don't really like calling it modern, but I guess people tend to think about it as like modern with like the gegenpressing style thing where every player is involved in really trying to kind of harass the opposition and get the ball back that way. And a lot of like really fast running and very kind of demanding work. And so he kind of in a way represented this new vision for where Genoa were going to go. And for us to be in December in Serie B, not even a full year after this guy was appointed, after already there was a major mistake with the first person that was appointed, it's sort of sad to see this come the way that it has. And of course, there's other things along the way there too. The the struggles we had in Serie A, but the togetherness that was there, and him doing the fist bump thing at the Gradinata. They're even, fan, t-shirts of that kind of German skull with the cap on it to be, the Grande Mister type stuff. Like, there were a lot of people behind him. When I was in Genoa, when we lost the last day of the season and there was the big march through the town, he was at the end of that, and gave a speech afterwards, even in English. So it's we needed to make the change. I think when we were discussing after the match, really the only thing that could have been done, fans were already starting to whistle and boo like during the match. We needed to make a change. It was the right decision to do, but it still stings a little bit because there's the kind of the big thing with this entire, situation that's happening with 777 is there's this bigger promise that's different than I think what we've experienced for all these years. And many maybe skeptical Genoa fan might be thinking, is this really all that much different from where we were? Obviously I'm being a little bit too negative. There are a lot of positive things with where we are
No,
now.
it's hugely different, Matt. Like I can go into like 1,000 things that I can list, but when just the main thing they're saying, this management, this ownership is not speaking enough to the fans. I remember up until September of last year, where they were complaining about the same thing about Preziosi, and that was in the good times and in the bad times.
I thought we were complaining about management talking too much to the fans with all their words that they're having and saying all these big,
and at the most, it was not even official. The guy was going to Radio Kiss Kiss in Napoli or whatever they were and whatnot, and just talking shit about to the radios about whatever he felt like. And I'm sorry, I much rather silence, not knowing properly, and thinking and doing the possibly trying to do the right thing, rather than just talking shit and stirring up like shit. I'm sorry, I'm saying double shit here. Anyways, so Blessin has been sacked this morning, and I was a guest at one of the it was a podcast / radio Facebook live type of event, which is from Pianeta Genoa.
Mm-hmm.
Few guests, good names also, like Simone Braglia, which was like our goalie from back in the day when we went to
big time goalie
to Coppa UEFA with the big names from Aguilera to Scuravi and so on. He was our goalie back then, right? Anyways, Marco Liguori, which is like the host, together with Alessandro Ignazzi. I respect the two of them. They're very nice people, and they often ask me to be guests on their show. Anyways, long story short, there's this guy, and he's in the business, or he was in the business. His name is Strinati. And he did say that he couldn't mention the actual source, but he did say that it might happen soon, and it did happen. So this was happening on Sunday, right? So this news actually now happened on Tuesday, and he did. So it's sort of a scoop, but it's not that we're the first one saying it. But the scoop is essentially that there were rumors, and they were talking very diligently about sacking Blessin, but the reason why they didn't do it immediately is because they wanted to find the right one. The idea behind it now is to have an Italian coach. So it is going to be an Italian coach that they have on their hands. So that is going to cut out a lot of rumors that they talked about previously. Yep. Like Bielsa or whomever they were talking about.
Yep, Bailey, I think, was a guy.
Yeah, and they talked about possibly, I don't know if it works in English as well, but it talks about going to bridge the coaching with the Primavera coach, which is Gilardino. Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, we'll talk about also other rumors that came up after that. Having said that, if similarly to Palladino, if Gilardino, all Eno, right? if Gilardino does well, that he might be promoted to permanent coach for the main team.
That'd be something, wouldn't it?
I know before the recording, you were not too positive about it.
Well, no. I think they're different things. So I am certainly willing to give Gilardino a chance. I know, he was pretty recently.
Yeah, I didn't mean against him. I meant about the possibilities.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, I guess this is part of the same thing with the 777. So there were other rumors out there. There were rumors of Ranieri. And I think there was a report recently in Pianeta Genoa about what had happened there. And it seemingly sounds like Ranieri will not be an answer unless something happens in the negotiation table.
The reason, just to give our fans a little bit clarity around that, if this is true, because again,
Right.
I'm not against anything Pianeta Genoa, but I know that there's a lot of journalists. I've been saying that forever now, but I've seen like a broken record for it. But they're inventing things and pulling things out of the hat just because they like to say it. Having said that, the rumors, let's call them rumors for now, anyways, about Ranieri is that he's asking too much. I think I read the numbers, but I can't remember them on top of my head.
The ask, I think, was 2 million a year.
Plus a million bonus if we get promoted.
Exactly. Yes.
And another year after that, I guess. Or is it just a month until the end of the season?
If it would, you're exactly right on the bonus if they get promoted. I can't recall if it would stay at that same level also for Serie A. So basically you'd be going from 2 million to 3 million annual salary.
So obviously people are rumoring about that. Oh, if we can't afford that, blah, blah, blah. So that's what makes me think, well, are we just listening to hypotheses that are not even true and people are just complaining because they love to complain? Or are we just not willing to bow down to people that are just shooting money just because they love to shoot money? And I mean Ranieri and his team, right? Nevertheless, if it was Ranieri, it would be an interesting move because even with Sampdoria, he did very well. So because he's just his team, his equipe and whatnot, it just brings solid type of responses and whatnot. Nevertheless, that's a rumor. He is in he's in the list of possibilities, but there's like at least I could think of 5 or 6 anyways that are just pulling out, like, these journalists are saying, yeah, I know for a fact that this coach is being considered. Like, okay, whatever. You don't know jack shit. So you're just saying it because this coach is available. And then all the way down to the fact of fans still saying, oh, we still have Ballardini on our payroll. But no, he's not on our payroll anymore. And no, we don't want Ballardini. Like, we have to stop thinking about coaches that are just okay, just because we're so used to now. For how many years now, Matt? 5, 6? Just to struggle and
at least 6, yeah,
make it there, right? So no, not enough. I mean, having said this is actually a good thing that I was reading about. We're complaining like if we were used to like the first spots of Serie A up until yesterday, when our last title was is going to be 100 years next year ago. So I don't know what we're complaining about.
Well, that's a much bigger topic, I guess. I'll give you something to complain about. We're a point ahead of Südtirol right now in Serie B. We are no longer even, it's goal differential, so that's its own thing. But we're no longer even in the 3rd place promotion spot right now. So I think there are enough things. My problem with this whole operation is that we've got 7-7, and this is what I think is interesting about because you were mentioning before, there are people saying that the management isn't talking to the fans enough. I remember in the summertime there were comments that the management is telling us too much without doing action. It was kind of the opposite, actually, because we had those big flowery statements from the leadership, and we had a lot of promises and a lot of things and a lot of doing the right thing kind of speech, and we're going to really dig in, and we really believe in this team, and we believe in Genoa and all this stuff. But it was kind of, I think part of the reaction was, well, why don't we see it? I think you and I were both at the time bemused by that response, because it's like, well, they're saying the right things. Let's give them a chance. Um, I think this is time for all that stuff to be scrutinized right now. Like yes, we do have a lot of good players in the squad. I still think there's some imbalance. It's not like we're looking like some sparkly creative team or even a very strong defensive team anymore. We should be better than how we've been playing. There's no question about that. But I think there's open questions in that side of the house. I'm not sure exactly what our salary situation is like and how much we're investing on our players and what's going on there. I know there's a lot of effort to kind of clear out dead weight and to do that type of thing. Um, and I know generally, I think if I'm to believe what I'm looking at within transfer markets, so bear with me because I'm looking at a third-party website. But it would seem like we have a positive balance of millions of euro to have to spend on something like a top quality coach. And I'm sorry, but it's just I'm frustrated when I see reports like that, if that's actually the reality, because it's these things they're starting to not make sense. And I've heard like Pirlo's name is rumored as well, which is something I really hope is a rumor. I don't know how much that's gone around, but it's like we're holding on to Blessin because we haven't found the manager, but now we are firing him because we feel like we kind of have to, but we still haven't found the manager. We're going to put Gilardino in charge, and everybody's excited for him, and I am too, and I certainly want him to do well, and I'd love for him to be the manager long term. But putting in an interim coach who's really only had Primavera experience and not even a full season of it, if I'm not mistaken, in charge in Serie B when we're in a dogfight and we're about to go up against, at least Ascoli is going to be a really difficult match for us. Succi will too, by the way, because they're right behind us in the standings right now.
Listen, in the standings, actually, Südtirol is 1 point above Ascoli. So we were thinking Ascoli was above them, like as a qualitative type of team,
right.
But not on paper.
Right. So we're actually right. Ascoli is sitting in 9th place on 21, Südtirol and 8th on 22. We're in 5th on 23. So these are critical matches, and I don't understand what's happening right now. And my biggest thing in a lot of my feeling is kind of like this project, there's a real belief. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of positive things. We got our debts cleared up. We got a lot of quote unquote dead wood out of the team in the summer. So there are a lot of contracts that were aging that it makes sense that we cleared off the books. A lot of things on that side that set us up for a good future. But if we can,
mind you, sorry, not to be pessimistic, but mind you that a lot is coming back in the summer because a lot were just loaned out.
Yes, totally. And I think,
and personally, I think that's most what Ottolini's job is or was. So people are saying, well, why aren't we hearing anything from our sports director, which is Ottolini? And personally, I think most of his job is to take care of that. Remember, he comes from Juventus, just dealing with the loanees, and there you go.
Well, I don't fault that either, though, because there was that communication seemed to be more clearly saying that Ottolini was the guy. And like you've said, I forgot his name after a while just because he's never in any publication. Like there's nothing there's nothing quoted that he has a blueprint on. And I think for me, like the biggest frustration with all this stuff is like, do we have people who are making decisions at the management level that really know what they're doing? Because I'm not sure anymore. Like I think like if you're a
cat, you're going down that route, huh?
I'm there.
We've lost you on the you're with the negative side now. Oh my god. Okay, I like it.
I've joined the dark side. I'm pissed. Like I don't get how
Anakin come back. You were the chosen one.
I know. But like, look, I would have really liked Blessin to work out. I would have liked this thing to work out. I'm not, we must have only Italian everything. And I kind of liked this idea of like a continental approach and everything else. But what is coming out of the club just everything seems to contradict itself. We now
Well,
want an
okay,
Italian
sorry.
manager.
Well,
Um,
that's going back to what I was saying before. Unfortunately, we have some cloudiness within the team, within the management. As I said before, with it, that's what I meant by saying the Italian versus the German.
no,
So
yeah,
your
I get.
Italian is following all the Italian newspapers and whatnot, saying, no, we have to get an Italian because they know well Serie B and we need that type of fighter, blah, 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 blah. While the other one is, I'm for the project. I don't care about the Serie B. If I do the project well, I'm just inventing words, obviously, so don't
No,
people
yeah,
don't
yeah,
quote
yeah,
me on this one, but it'll happen, it'll work and whatnot. I mean, as we said it throughout in different podcasts, Matt, but we would never an anti-Blessin type of
no,
people.
right.
But obviously, we do recognize that when we're fighting for the direct promotion, I was always hoping for the winning the league, but nevertheless, when you're showing 2 points in the last 5 games, that's not okay. That's not cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's when that decision had to be made. And I think like the reason why I'm kind of saying what I'm saying is that I'm basing a lot of that emotion off of rumors. So who knows what actually is going on. But um we've had a couple deviations from the plan already since 777 have took over. I think there are a lot of optical things that they're putting out there that makes sense when you talk about it out loud, but practicality wise, we've not seen any benefit yet on the Genoa side. And that maybe is not surprising. But we've got a lot of properties that are being owned. I've not seen a lot of player movement happening between those teams, at least as of yet. There have been a couple of mishaps. You can call it potentially. I think you kind of have to, just given the length of the contract. And I hate to say that, but 2 failures at the management level, decisions that have been made. The first one was a spectacular one with Shevchenko. The second one was maybe a smaller failure with Blessin, but I don't think you can call it a success if we can't even get halfway through the City B season without him being fired.
Well, okay, but let's say the first one was definitely the biggest mistake. Shevchenko was the biggest mistake. Was a mediatic mistake. Was a fool's rush into things. Stuff like that. The hype of the first purchase of the bigger group and whatnot, and so on. So they wanted to go big, without really. Maybe they even had qualitative people saying to them, wait, calm down, et cetera, et cetera. Don't rush into it too fast and so on. And maybe they said, don't worry, it'll happen. Eventually it'll work out well. Obviously that was a mistake. There's no point even to go back into it again. We knew that was the biggest mistake. Blessin, on the other hand, it was part of the larger, well thought project. Unfortunately, as we know, not only Serie B is what it is, but we also have soccer is highly unpredictable, which we didn't talk about. Look at the World Cup. What's happening? It's like there's so many upsets. It's unbelievable. I was reading this article saying, so small parenthesis, if you don't mind me, forgive me for doing this, like jumping from one topic to the other, but the old style football, soccer, has changed drastically. Like we were used to the top 8-10 teams always going to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And sure, there's a few that we're used to and whatnot. Have you ever thought about Morocco?
Actually, in that group, I didn't pick them out of the group to advance, but they're interesting, I think, in their talent. And also, by the way, Hakimi scoring the final penalty, having been born and raised in Madrid, is kind of interesting too. That's a wholly separate topic. But yes, I mean, like, look, there's certainly an unpredictability to the game. It's part of why we love the game so much. But I just kind of think that it sort of feels like management is playing FIFA or something. Like you don't like walk into like a new club and it's like, who are we going to appoint as manager? Well, who is like one of the biggest names in Italian football? Like when I was like 15. Oh, Shevchenko, cool. This guy's the coach of the national team,
I get what you're
you
getting at,
know, and
and
it's
I agree, but we can argue that forever, and all I can say is ultimately we don't have the judgment call, and we can comment, and it's easy to complain and point fingers after the facts rather than
sure,
when
yeah.
being up there and making the calls and the decisions when you're even putting the money. That's a little bit different, right? So it's easy really to play with everybody else's money, and sure, it does look like that what you just said. At the same time, do we really know really what's happening behind the scenes on top? And if you cut out all those rumors, not really.
We don't. We don't know. And I don't know what the club's finances are and what they look like. Maybe it's really prudent to deny a manager 2 million annual salary. Um, I don't actually think that salary is insane.
For
Um,
us to be side right now, fighting for promotion, or actually battling to fight for promotions. Now we're not even fighting for promotion right now. We're battling to fight for promotion. I think it's insane.
yeah, I mean,
From a bigger project perspective, in the long run, I can say yes. But are we talking about a young coach that can have a long run? No. And I'm thinking only about Ranieri, right? How old is he? Like
yeah,
80 fucking nine?
well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what we're talking about. This long run, I mean, yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't think you'd be here for more than like 3 or 4 seasons or something.
At the very
Um,
most, right?
but I just hope that we don't have. I know they're one of the more consistent comments ever since the Blessin rumors have been out there has been no more experiments. I think
Yeah.
everyone wants that thing. We want a proven manager to come in. What my reaction to, I think, is just kind of like, if we're not really able or willing to spend to bring in a top caliber manager to get the job done, it raises again some of the questions of the things that we've decided to do.
Again, these are all rumors. You're basing on rumors. We don't really know if that is true. He could have also did a high ball in order just not to be confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. We have no idea what
We
the
don't know, right? We're only
negotiations
playing
were
with
like.
what they're telling us, and honestly, in my opinion, out of everything that we're hearing, is probably 90% is BS.
Yeah, I mean, it's likely. I think it's likely that there's a lot of hearsay in there, and what's actually happening, is probably um, a lot less obvious for everyone, and I think that's fine. I still just kind of have a problem. Like, I want to see us finding a way and making a decision, and the reason why I kind of feel like we're adrift is it's just, I don't know. Like, Blessin was a guy we stuck with for a really long time. He had a really specific formation. Um, Maybe there's a belief that guys would be able to get goals easier than they were able to in Serie A, that they could get them better in Serie B or something. But I just kind of feel like what he's going to play, and you also sort of like, I could be wrong on this, but like the 4-2-3-1 that he loves so much, like that's basically predicated on having 3 number 10s or at least 2 wingers on the pitch. We have neither of those two things.
That's
So if
correct.
you're in a position to like put a guy in charge and this is his system, you either need to you need to spend to get those players, and that did not happen really at all in the summertime.
Well,
And
obviously, on the paper, it's showing that there's some either miscommunication or misunderstanding on whatever that model was supposed to look like and whatnot. That's for sure. That's a given. Let's see. Like, we could go on forever. This was supposed to be, by the way, everybody, this was supposed to be a very short episode
yeah,
because we are going to be recording also after our Südtirol on Thursday. Not Thursday is the match, but the recording is going to happen soon after that,
yep,
in order to have also a preview for the Ascoli match, which is on Sunday. Nevertheless, so I'm not trying to cut you short, obviously,
no,
Matt.
it's okay.
I could talk, we could talk about this like for eons, right?
I know.
Anyways, Gilardino, ex Genoano, ex Fiorentino, a great goal scorer, doing phenomenal with the Primavera. You're right, he didn't do an entire season yet, but he is in the top of the league. let us remind everybody that the saddest thing ever was last year. Both main team and Primavera were relegated.
Mm-hmm.
But contrary to what's happening to us in the Primavera B or 2, sorry, Genoa is first in the league, and that's also thanks to Mr. Gilardino, which has now been promoted temporarily, for now, anyways, as the main coach. And let's hope that what is he going to have? Like 2 days enough to talk with the players, as similar to what happened with Conco. People are like already negatively speaking. Oh, we're going to have another Conco episode. No, I don't think.
If we have a Conco episode against Südtirol, I mean, here the Conco episode was against Vlahovic and the ridiculous Fiorentina team too. So at least that's not what we're facing. And I'm counting on the Genoa club Bolzano to make some noise. The game's away in Südtirol, I think, isn't it?
The game is sorry, I should have looked at. No, it's at home.
Oh, it is at home. It's at the Ferraris. Well, I mean, also, by the way, all the more reason for us to make this decision. Can you imagine if we were to welcome fans to the Marassi with Blessin still? It would have been
no. After the whistles from last match, no, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
So quickly, standings. We're looking at Frosinone now at 9 points. Am I counting that right? Yeah, 9 points up from Genoa and the first spot. Regina now at 6 points on the second spot. And that's the part that is really making me angry. Not the Regina themselves, but the fact that seems quote unquote running away for that
those two. It's so important we don't lose any more ground. I mean, we've dropped, as you mentioned, like
too many points,
way too many points,
too many points. And I think this independently, I understand that it's like a huge burden on Gilardino. It's a huge burden on the players. Let's not forget that part.
Oh yeah,
you could see independently whether half were with, I'm just putting numbers there, but half if they were with Blessin, the other half were against Blessin. You could sense the nervousness of those kids on the pitch, of those guys, those players on the pitch. They were tense. They were nervous. They were not, fully there. Anyways, so even though you said we are on the 5th spot, in theory we're on the 3rd spot, because until the end of the league, I see
all level on points.
We're all at the same points, right?
6th, yeah.
Because you're still running up for the points, and there's 4 teams now on the 3rd spot, and that's Bari, Parma, Genoa, and Brescia. So Parma came back up, even though they're not doing a splendid form. Brescia, after a whole bunch of ties, did a win and lost last match. And Bari is like becoming like the tie.
Yeah, 5 in a row.
Like 5 in a row, right?
Draws.
Even though Frosinone, unfortunately, thankfully, both Regina and Frosinone, Regina differently got a little bit more points up against, away from us, but both of them are not like in a super form themselves.
Yeah.
Then we have
a couple of draws on their sides as well.
Yeah, exactly. Then we have 1 point beneath us. We have Ternana and Südtirol, 7th, 8th spot at 22. 1 point beneath that, as we mentioned before, we have Ascoli. 1 point again underneath that at 20. So on the 10th spot is Modena. Then again, 1 point, same thing we said the other time. One of the last podcasts, we have like Pisa, Cagliari, Cittadella at 19, then 18, Palermo on the 14th spot. What I'm trying to say is like, it's so easy to drop, and that's what's happening to us. But what I'm also pointing towards is it's also easy to climb. That's what happened to the Südtirol.
Totally. I mean, we are literally potentially could be a loss away. I mean, this isn't exactly going to happen, but it's only 4 points between us and 13th spot right now.
And only 6 points to Regina. That's not impossible. I haven't looked at what their run is happening in the short term, like the next coming up. Actually, the next one is Regina Frosinone. So, hello.
Let's go.
Then they
Big
have
one.
Regina is going to play at Como on Sunday. Then it's going to be Regina Bari. Then they're going to have the Coppa Italia as well, which we didn't talk in a long time, also for ourselves.
Yep.
And then Ascoli Regina. So yeah, so they have a few matches that are quite important as well. So, it's not the end of the world. I'm now going to look quickly at the Frosinone next matches. Frosinone is playing at home against Pisa. Pisa is doing very well lately.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're going to be playing. We said the Regina one on
Regina
Thursday.
first.
Then on Sunday they're playing against Pisa.
Mm-hmm.
Then the week after that, we are playing at home with Frosinone. And then they have Ternana and Modena and whatnot. So it's not even super easy. And some of these teams have surprised other big ones as well. So it's not impossible. My point is to say that.
Yeah.
And if we looked at the matches that happen on match day 15, 14, I can't remember now.
Yep.
Match day 15. Sorry, forgive me. So we saw to bring at the standings that we talked about. Just to quickly cover them anyways, we had Venezia that won at home against Ternana. They're doing a little bit better, so they're getting out of the bottom three, which in fact, indeed, we see them now sitting at the 18th spot. But, remember, they were at the last spot just a few matches ago.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget that. Then we had Cagliari-Parma, still 1-1. Then we had Spal-Modena, kind of a weird match, actually. We saw Modena with the red card, and it ended up 3-2 for Modena at Ferrara against Spal.
Wow.
Obviously, then there was a Genoa Cittadella, which ended with 1-0 for Cittadella.
Mm-hmm.
Südtirol tied against Frosinone, which is a big one.
Big result.
Yeah. Then Regina won at Brescia. So that was a super surprise for me. I was not expecting that.
Not at all.
Cosenza Perugia 0-0. Bari Pisa 0-0. Ascoli Como 3-3. That was another wild match. And last but not least, Palermo winning at Benevento. The next one coming up, so this is the preview that we're going to talk about before we cut short for our express episode. Match day 16 is going to see us on Thursday. So tomorrow, which is actually Wednesday, they're going to play only one match, which is Ternana Cagliari. And then on Thursday, we're going to have Parma Benevento, Cosenza Brescia, Perugia Spal, Regina Frosinone, which is the biggest match.
Big one.
Yeah. Then Genoa Südtirol, which is super important for us. Cittadella Bari. It's going to be another interesting one. And let's hope that Cittadella keeps Bari down anyways. Mm-hmm. Modena Venezia, Pisa Ascoli, and Palermo Como. So the ones that mostly what we're looking at, we thought we were going to watch at two matches, but essentially it's the Regina Frosinone, which is the one that we have to look at and hope for. I don't know. What would you hope for?
Draw, I think. I think that's the best result.
Fair enough.
The more that we can see those two lose points, even if it's not a full 0, that benefits us.
With a win and both of them drawing together means that we recoup 2 points to both.
Right. Exactly.
Bringing us instead of to 6 points to Regina, bringing us to 4, and instead of 9 with Frosinone would bring us to 7, which would look a little bit better.
Right. Agreed.
Anyways, so that's what it looks like. I guess even though it doesn't make sense, I don't even think it makes sense even to do any type of predictions for the next match.
Yeah.
We've continuously saying that we have to win. We have to win. It's no point even to repeat it. It's going to be similarly to the other match for totally different reasons, because now we have our Primavera coach there. I don't foresee us to have another show like we had with Conco. I don't know what your thoughts around that.
I don't feel that way either. I mean, I feel like Conco was in many ways not set up for success. And I also think that, Gila, I would hope that, even with the short time he's had at the Primavera, he's got a little bit of that sense of kind of what he wants to do and how he wants to make a decision. I do think that the team, as much as I'm upset about the construction of it, and especially the things that happened in recent years, and talking really specifically about the summer window and the January window, there's still enough there for him to dig into. And, we're not playing these, juggernauts right now. We should be able to try to get something out of these games, even if Ascoli and Cittadella are right behind us. So I don't think it's going to be a Conco type situation. I would love for it to be a coaching controversy type of a thing, but we'll see.
Well, so you were saying that he's just started with Genoa as a Primavera coach, true? Before that, I don't know at what levels, but he was with Siena for a couple of years. I'm guessing as well, either with the Siena team, maybe in third division, or with their Primavera. I'm not too sure, and I don't know enough, and I'm sorry about that. But yeah. He's not like totally started off the bat as a coach. Conco, you are right. It was not, he was the only person that accepted that game, that the only alternative was not to show. I essentially, that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, it would have maybe been a little bit more better for our pride in this sense, but yes. Yeah, he was led to slaughter, basically. Like, there wasn't really much that could be done there, and that was kind of the disappointing part about the whole thing.
Yeah, but Fiorentina, I remember talking to my friend Gabriele from La Viola Canadese, or whatever the group that he created, and he was saying that it was all Fiorentina's merit. Again, no, please, that team back then was just in a total disaster. We're not at that level.
No.
It's just that we arrived to a point that we're not making those points because of whatever the reasons happening. And we can invent and guess a whole bunch of reasons. We're not at that level of last year. Last year was also perhaps change of property and a whole bunch of things that were happening. I don't know. It was just like a bad moment. And we're definitely not that point. And
Agreed.
And yeah, so we'll be recording within the next few days the aftermatch for Genoa Südtirol, and we'll be commenting, giving some previews for the match of Ascoli against Genoa. So that's an away game.
That's right.
Okay, I guess that's a wrap for our extra long express episode. And we'll thank you everybody again for listening to us. So keep careful that we're going to have, watch out that we're going to have an episode coming out soon again this week, an extra one, because of what I just mentioned before. So
extra games.
Exactly. Keep following us. Put us a like on all the social platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And you can listen to us on any podcast you like.
Yeah.
And as always, and never will stop being tired of saying Forza Genoa. You've listened to La Lanterna, a spotlight on Italian football, a podcast powered by Genuani Si Resta. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.